the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
What's up, Cowboys Nation? What is up? It's your boy Mike Tag here. You see, they left me solo. Kelly K9 goes on vacation, leaves your boy hanging. But of course, I'm going to fix that. Not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to bring someone in that can definitely bring the passion and the heat to the Cowboys cave. But make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe, share. Also, got some great news. Gonna have any of you guys from the '80s. We got Eugene Lockhart, middle linebacker. He was the Mean Gene hit machine. 222 tackles in one season, all pro in 1989. He was one of my favorite players, man. He was all over the ball. So we're going to be having him on next week, but that's next week. We're talking about this week. So this week, we're bringing on my man, EJ Savage is coming into the cave. He's a friend of the show. He's been here before. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Just ready to talk some ball.
There we go. Now, for those who don't know, you should know, but for those who don't know, tell everyone where they can find you. Get the good stuff.
Yeah, so just started up my YouTube page. If you're on YouTube, obviously you're watching this on YouTube, so go ahead and follow me there on EJ Savage 4714, and then on Twitter, just Boys in the Zone. That's the letter N, not IN, and yeah, hit me up. Just talk some ball.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. So love having you on. To me, this is the best part, man. The season is kind of getting started. I know they're not putting up pads. They're not going to be hitting any of that stuff, so it's not all crazy yet. But you get the football feel in the air. The schedule's been out. Now we've got everything going. We know who we're playing, when we're playing. So going to start with some receivers, but just initially, what's your first thoughts on what you're hearing or what you're seeing in training camp?
Well, yeah, I think that Jalen Tolbert, there's some good news circling around about him. Mentioned this on another podcast last night. It just seems like he's really starting to get things. He's, he was a player that didn't start playing football till 11th grade. So it's going to take him a little bit of time to get his feet under him. But, once he does, I think that he's going to do some good things. And you look at the future of this Cowboys wide receiving core. You have CeeDee, his contract. They picked up the 5th-year option, but who knows if he's going to get a long-term deal. I anticipate that he will. Gallup, you're not necessarily tied to him after this year. And then Brandon Cooks, he's getting up there in age. So you really do want to see Jalen Tolbert make those next steps, get in there, and just do what he needs to do to prove that wasn't a waste of a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, and that make ultra happy. I don't know a bigger hater of Jalen Tolbert than him, but I've said this story. I've seen a lot of him in college because a friend of mine's son played at South Alabama, so support him. So watched a lot of the games. So I know what he's got. I know he's got some talent, definitely some upside. It was kind of obviously disappointing. The way the season worked out. It was kind of like a redshirt year. Didn't give really much at him. But I think to you, everything that we're reading, everything that we're hearing, it's all positive for Jalen Tolbert. And to your point, I mean he's just started playing football in 11th grade, but in Alabama, a lot of people may not know, maybe they know. I mean, he had an opportunity to go to Alabama and transfer from South Alabama, and he wanted to finish what he started in South Alabama. He's from Mobile, so he's got that kind of character. So there's no doubt that he was going to learn from that first season. And to your point, I expect him to take a nice jump. Now, what he could be the 4th receiver. I don't think he's going to crack the top 3 of what we have. But if you can get production out of Tolbert, and then of course we got a few other guys, right? Simi and Dennis Houston's there. We got Tyron Johnson. We picked up. I mean, we're
Just
pretty
picked him up. Yep.
we're pretty heavy at receiver. You got Turpin's the wild card. So talking about this receiving core, and definitely the chat, jump in. Is this kind of like the best receiving core that we've seen in Dallas in I mean, who knows when?
A few years, yeah, at least a few years. I mean, you think possibly back to the Amari, Gallup, CeeDee, and then Cedric Wilson. That was a good receiving group.
Yeah,
Um, a little bit back, I think you had. Did you have Des with Miles Austin? I'm trying to think.
that
Uh,
was Romo. So did
I
he?
think he
God,
might
I
have been a
think.
younger guy at that
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
but then you got the
Help us in the chat, man. You know my old mind can't go. I just remember Miles Austin breaking out against Kansas City out of nowhere, but I think he had
yeah.
those few years and he kind of faded.
Faded
Faded away
off a
from
little
there.
bit,
Yeah,
but yeah, so probably back when we had Cedric Wilson that one year, and then he had some good plays, but then again Gallup was hurt that year a little bit.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that shaping up to be one of those really deep groups. Obviously, Tolbert. We'll see if he can give you anything in the receiving game, but it looks like he's getting the majority of the special teams receiving snaps for punt returns and kickoff returns. So I don't know if they're going to try Deuce Vaughn back there or not.
Yeah.
Looking like that's probably not the case. So I'm expecting Tolbert to make the team. And then you got a guy that you drafted later rounds in Jalen Brooks, who's we've heard a little bit of news around that he's doing some good things. You add in
Hmm.
Simi, add in some of the other guys you spoke about earlier, and yeah, it's shaping out to be a competitive group whenever we're heading into training camp and further.
Well, and looking at CD, looking at Cooks, looking at I got in a little heat because someone didn't like my comment that my opinion, of course, we all got opinions, right? My opinion going into this season, I'll take Brandon Cooks over Devontae Smith this season. I'm not obviously
Mm.
Devontae Smith's younger. I mean, if you're saying who to start team, maybe you go Smith, and it's no knock on Smith. I think he's a good receiver. I'm just saying for me, my cup of tea with CD and Brandon Cooks. I
Yep.
think that's a great 1-2 punch. And then if Gallup, do you see Gallup kind of making that move back after what you'd say is a disappointing
You
season
know,
last year for him?
Mike, I said this on the other show last night. I said that I think that this Cowboys offense is really going to try to focus in on using Gallup more in the red zone, like we used to with Dez, with the
Mm-hmm.
fades, back of the end zone, stuff like that. Because you ask yourself, like, what is Gallup really good at? And it's body control. Connecting that upper half with his lower half, getting his toes in bounds, and just
Yep.
making a great spectacular catch. And that's kind of what Dez did. He was a red zone monster for us for so long. You don't have that bruiser back there with Zeke anymore. You've missed your option with Dalton Schultz as an inline blocker for the rollout little pass touchdowns for Dak.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting a big touchdown year at the very least for Gallup.
Well, fantasy football people are going to love that. So when you hear, let's just say it for what it is. You're looking at this receiving core. We ranked them a little bit in the East. Kelly and I kind of
Mhm.
went through it. I mean, where do you see them? Forget the NFC East. Where do you see this receiving core stacking up in the NFC?
Well, we'll have to see with what happens with the Seattle wide
Yeah.
receiving core, because that's a heck of a group. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, to pair with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. That's a
Mm-hmm.
really nice group. Tampa Bay's group, still nothing to sneeze at. I think Mike Evans is 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons now,
Yeah.
something crazy like that. So, and then, yeah, Philadelphia has a good group. I honestly think that the 49ers have a pretty decent group as well, with Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel. Um, Now, if I was going to rank them, I'm a little bit biased. I think that the Cowboys have the best
Yeah.
because we have three proven commodities, but I wouldn't be surprised if you get three 1,000-yard receivers there for Seattle. I really do think that Jackson Smith and Jay Book can just find soft spots in the zone and just be a really great outlet for Geno.
Yeah, and it's all going to come down to Geno, right? Can he do what he
Mhm.
did last season and live off that? I want to give a shout out to my man Steve. I think he went to the tour in the Star, and I don't. Hopefully, maybe I gave him a little advice. Maybe some other people gave some great advice. It looks like, but that's where you can see a lot of these players, and
Mhm.
it looks like he ran into some guys that ran into a legend, Charles Haley, which ain't nothing wrong with that. Hopefully,
That's
we got some
sweet.
more Haleys on this team. So that's awesome, Steven. That's really good. So let's see. Tampa needs a quarterback to throw him the ball. That's a
That's true.
wild card. So we don't want to. We don't want to. We're just talking straight up receivers. Obviously, I think some of these guys are going to have
Mhm.
problems with the quarterback that they got on the team. But I like you, I'm expecting big things from this receiving core.
Yep.
Now, talk about the offense, and we got the Texas Coast. There's something that Dallas loves, a little marketing. So I expect to see some Texas Coast shirts
Yep.
coming out anytime soon. But with what McCarthy being the offensive, we're going to say offensive coordinator. I know Schottenheimer's there, but we all
Hmm.
know Mike
He's calling the
McCarthy's.
plays.
Yeah, he's handling the business. I mean, what's your thoughts on that with this offense as it pertains to the receivers?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot more quick hitting plays, things that will get your QB in rhythm early on in the game. But then I think that I think that Kellen liked to focus in that intermediate spots of the field. I think we're going to see a lot more quick hitting plays and then the deep ones over the top
Yeah,
after you drag those safeties down. So I'm excited to see what happens, and I wouldn't put it past Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer to try to figure out how to use Tony Pollard in the receiving game a little bit more as well.
that would be nice. That would be nice. Now you're going to get in
Yep.
a little of a sore spot when it comes to the offense. Receiver, I feel great. I mean, I feel really good.
Hmm.
When you get to the running back, I got a little bit of concern. Now, you can ease my pain. We had Ian Beckles on. Maybe you'll agree with him. He said there's only two running backs. The rest are guys in the NFL. So he equated most
Hmm.
all the guys. Obviously everyone on our roster is guys. Um, do you think that what we have on this roster right now is capable enough to handle the run game, to be able to grind it out in the fourth quarter, do those long drives when we need them? Or you seeing a guy like Cooks sitting out there, right? He just got going to
Just
get
got
released if it
released.
didn't
Yep.
happen already. Or do you go after a guy like Cooks or someone else to bring in house?
Cooks is, I mean, he's intriguing because I think he has 3 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. So he's a great player. He's playing behind a not so great offensive line for the Vikings until last year. They were noticeably better. With that being said, though, it has to be the right price because you want to carry over that cap, that money for your cap next year for extending guys like Diggs, Lambs, those type of guys, Micahs in the future. You
Yeah,
want to have that money. So depends if you really think that he is the missing piece that's going to take you all the way, or you're not really completely sold on Pollard getting back and healthy in time to start the season. Go ahead and do it.
yeah,
With that being said, though, I think that Pollard will come back and he'll be good. I just don't know that we're going to have as many true run plays in our system now that we have in past. Like you talk about Jason Garrett, he was a guy that went back to the 90s philosophy of we need to be strong in the trenches, we need to run the ball, we need to control the clock. We saw a little bit of a philosophy change with Kellen Moore because he came from that Boise State system where he was running, or he wanted to pass the ball all the time.
mm-hmm.
Um, and now we're kind of going to bring it back to that middle ground, which is the sweet spot. And so I'm hoping to see more pass plays on first down, second down, third down. Obviously, it's a pass down, but at the end of the day, you have to find the sweet spot for figuring out, do I want to run it here on first down every single time, or do we want to mix it in here at the pass, which is an extension of the run? And I
Yeah.
think that's what Mike McCarthy's going to do.
So the name that's out there, forget coach, if we're looking in house. And the other question we'll get to is the offensive line. Because if you're confident in the offensive line, then some people believe that you can just throw anyone back there. I don't know necessarily if I believe all that. I think they
Hmm.
go hand in hand. But Malik Davis is kind of the you always have these little favorites that come through camp, and you obviously got the kid from, is it South Dakota, the free agent.
Uh,
Um,
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State, the fullback. You got
Hmm.
Malik Davis, who really showed a lot. I mean, physical running back in preseason, came out of Florida, has definitely got some talent. Played in a big time conference. So, do you do you
Hmm.
do you feel comfortable? Maybe, hey, we're going to roll with Jones, we're going to go roll with Davis, and we're going to roll with Pollard. Pollard, I have no issues with. I got no problem with Pollard. My
Yep.
concern with Pollard is a 17-game season. I think having one running back, those days are long gone. I think you need to have a stable, and
Yep.
it's the stable behind Pollard that has me just a little uneasy.
Yep. So I think that the Cowboys have this handled. As far as you saw, whenever we lost to Marco Murray in the past, we can bring in a Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris. Those guys
Mm-hmm.
were good for us. So I'm not worried about our running back group. I just want to see Tony Pollard actually be the guy for once in his career and see what he can really do with the maximized touches.
Yeah.
Um, Early on in the season, obviously you got to see where his leg is, but after that, I'm fine with Rojo coming in to kind of spell him and help him out or whatever. Or if you even want to bring in a guy like Malik Davis, like you were talking about,
Hmm.
he showed good bursts last year, and he could make some people miss as well. So then you throw in a Deuce Vaughn that's kind of reminiscent of the Lance
Yeah.
Dunbar type for Romo back in the days, who was good in passing downs and stuff like that. So I kind of like what we have at the running back position. Obviously, no superstars, but Tony Pollard, given the right amount of touches, can become that.
Yeah, and I think with Deuce, I love the pick for Deuce. I think he's going to be one of those guys, like you said. Yet we had Dunbar. Darren
Hmm.
Sproles was the guy that I always remember. Coming out of the same school, same size, small, but had an outstanding NFL career and was a
Yep.
playmaker. So I think I kind of leave him sometimes off the running backs because I just don't know if he's going to be that guy. What concerns me with Pollard is being the workhorse, it just gives me flashbacks to Felix Jones, and when you
Yep.
had when they become the man, he always worked in a two back system in Arkansas, and then he gets to
Yep.
Dallas, and they kind of had that two back, and then they make him the man. He never really was the same because he just wasn't used to that workload. So that's what Pollard is. He's never really had, even in college, I don't think he carried the ball more than 15 times. So I just
Yep.
don't know if he's that guy in the fourth quarter when we want to grind it out. Is he the guy that you want to give it to 8 straight times, or 8 times on a drive to have a
Yep.
12 play drive to end the game? So that's my only concern, with Pollard.
And yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Is I don't know that all of Pollard's touches in the game are going to be straight running plays. You know what I mean? I think more quick hitting pass plays to Pollard, get him in space, would
Yeah,
actually be advantageous towards him and his skill set, anyways.
yeah,
So I hope that we can see some of that.
yeah. No, absolutely. And Ultra's talking noise about my Heat. I just got to say, hey, I wore my Heat stuff. It's a rough night. I'm trying to talk Cowboy stuff. I don't want to think about last night. I don't know what the hell happened. That wasn't the Miami Heat team that I know. I don't know if my man Mark's sent me some sort of hat that has some hex on it or something, because everything was going good until I got that hat. So we're going to forget about that. We got game 4. The only thing that worries me is they say whoever wins game 3, 80% of the time ends up winning the
Wins
series.
the
So
series. So, wow.
that's not odds. If you're a Vegas guy, that's not odds that I'm liking. So, are you a Heat? Are you a fan of any basketball team, real quick?
Celtics.
Celtics. You're the
So
Celtics too.
yeah,
That's right. Okay,
so
that's
I
right.
had to throw in my towel after the Heat beat us.
That's right. See, I gotta get my memory good. That's right. You're another Celtics guy like Mark. So at least we got that. At least we got that. But
Yep.
no. So you hear a lot about the Texas coast, and McCarthy. I don't know about you. I mean, maybe we've talked
Mhm.
about it. I've said it a million times. I like McCarthy. I think he's the right coach for this team when he took
Yep.
over for Garrett. I think he's changed the culture. I just think he's his mentality and the way he approaches the game. He's don't care about it. Let Jerry and Steven do all the BS they want to do.
Mhm.
He focuses on football. He seems like I don't like to use the word players coach, but the players really seem to play for him, like him. You see the post
Mhm.
game, locker room stuff. He just seems like just a good dude, and I want to see him succeed. And I've always said he needed to be the offensive coordinator, or at least handle the offense, and he got kind of screwed over when Kellen Moore stayed on. And it's not against Kellen
Yep.
Moore. I just think that when you take over a job and you're the head guy in charge, that you should be calling the shots. So he's calling the shots now. Him and Dak Prescott seem to be working more together, and you've seen some comments.
Yep.
With Zach Martin's made some comments, Dak has made some comments. It just seems like a different vibe on the offense. Are you seeing that or sensing that as well?
Yeah, I'm definitely sensing that. Going back to what you said about McCarthy, is I just feel like whenever we were winning Super Bowls with Jimmy Johnson, it wasn't a yes man as a coach, like a Jason Garrett. It was kind of
Yeah.
more just a yes man for Jerry. So I'm liking that from McCarthy. I think that he's a good football mind. He's worked with some Hall of Famers in the past at quarterback. He
Mm-hmm.
understands that sometimes as a coach, you don't always see what's on the field that your quarterback sees. So you got to put the trust in the quarterback, and you've got to have a hive mentality working with your minds. With Brian Schottenheimer, him, and Dak, it seems like they're putting more trust into Dak, and I like that because at the end of the day, Dak is he has that leadership role where he's gonna be the first guy to say, "Hey, this was my fault. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna come back and do better."
Yeah.
Versus him coming to the sideline and him being mad because Kellen's not letting him do whatever, and he has that in his head or whatever it is. If he's going to die on his sword, he's going to die on his sword. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know anyone in the chat don't like McCarthy. They think he's been a mistake, or you're not feeling the vibe. I'd love to hear the reasoning. I'm just curious, just for my own sake. Maybe Ultra's negative on anything. Maybe he don't like McCarthy either. But no. So the offensive side, I just think things are just moving in the right direction. Health is going to be the key. Offensive line is going to be the key. Mike McCarthy hasn't had an offensive line. If there's there's a little bit of concern, you feel bad for him. Is he's never had the opportunity to have the offensive line, the best five, the guys out there. So looking at the best 5 you're seeing Tyron Smith playing left tackle, Tyler Smith at guard, obviously Biotis at center, Martin at guard, and then anticipating Steele at right tackle. Is that the best 5 that you're seeing? And is that, would you have any issues? That seems the way that they're going to go. Do you got any problem with that?
No, I don't. I think that is the best 5. Obviously, Tyron's going to go down at some point. I don't want to put that out in the sphere of things that can happen, but it almost seems like it happens every single year. So we just have to be ready for it. As far as when that happens, I think you got to kick out Tyler Smith or pick up another Jason Peters kind of a guy, or Jason Peters again, because he had some leadership qualities that were always nice to see. It's looking like Steele is kind of still working his way back. So they're putting Matt Farniak out there at right tackle. I haven't heard anything negative or super positive about him, but it's looking like they trust him. The new offensive line coach trusts him. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of intrigued with what's happening with Austin Richards, the 5th round pick out of UNC for us. More of a tackle to me than a guard, but
they got him at guard. Aren't they practicing him at guard right now?
Yeah, I think they're kind of cross training him a little bit, and that's a new philosophy for the Cowboys because, like you were saying earlier with Mike McCarthy, I don't think that he's ever finished the season with his starting line the same.
No.
So it's pretty crazy, but I think that they're trying to cross train these guys, which is a good thing. I just don't want to see it where, it's affecting a young player too much.
Yeah, and I think so. You've got. The backups. That's what I'm wanting. What we got on the team, and I had to write some of these guys down because I don't remember. You had Chuma, right? He was a guard that we signed from Cincinnati. Was he on Cincinnati?
Carolina, I believe.
Carolina, the Jets. Maybe it was the Jets.
In the Jets. Yep.
And you had I'm gonna screw it up. Walazeko. Willetsko. He got hurt last year, right? So he really didn't play much at offensive line. Our man Ball, is he still on the team? We don't. Hopefully, they
Josh Ball. I believe I heard some chatter about him going into guard. So we'll see what happens. But
so and I think someone asked about center. So Biotis is. I mean, I think he's got that pretty much.
We have Alec.
You got Lindstrom. Is he?
Lindstrom. Yep.
Yeah. So
who was a pretty solid center in college. We can give him a chance if we don't want to sign Tyler Biotis next season because this is his final season on contract. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. So I mean, the depth is kind of where the trouble starts for the Cowboys, right? Is that kind of it's not a matter of if, it's when. We know Tyron is probably going to get hurt at some point, right? But when he's in there, he's good. I mean, when he's in there, he's still one of the top tackles. So it's rolling of the dice, and then you kick Tyler out, and then maybe you put one of those other guys in a guard to back up Tyler.
Yeah, I think that
if Steele goes down, trouble starts. Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah, if Steele goes down, we've got to pick up a veteran. So, like I said, Jason Peters, kind of a guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything, but also kind of be a player coach as well. That's something that I would enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And here we go. We got a little, so I get some smart aleck Camo Piper. And I already said the problem with this man, and I love him, good dude. He's a 49ers fan. and I usually can just, I can talk some smack on any team, but the 49ers are the one team I just have some trouble with right now because I got nothing to say. But on my birthday, all that's going to change. Understand that after we handle that business in the stadium. But we don't
Let's
need a
go.
punter. Our offense, with that offense, we don't need no damn punter. So we got a good punter, but we don't need a punter. I know you're trying to make a
Yep.
wisecrack, but we're going to handle that business, Camel. Don't even worry about that. And once we do that, once we get Aaron Rodgers. That's, we don't want to look too far ahead. Aaron Rodgers, number one, right? We're going to handle that thing, home opener against the
Oh,
Jets
yeah.
and kind of get rid of that. And then next on the hit list is going to be the 49ers because we're going to slap them around and get this thing over with.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so let's see. Let's jump through the chat real quick. Took Mike McCarthy 5 years to get Green Bay a ring. So, we're not that far away. This is year 4 for Mike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a different.
The first year, Dak broke his leg.
Yeah.
It comes back with the 37 touchdown season last year. So yeah, 4th year.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, it's a different game. And a lot of that stuff is you're kind of building up your roster and this that. But he had a good team in Green Bay. They just took a little while with Favre. You had all that drama and all this other stuff. But I would say that I'm surprised that the Packers. It's one crack I'll always give the Packers. I mean, you had Favre and you had Rodgers for how many years? 30 years, whatever it's been. And you only got 2 rings out of it. That's disappointing. But I'll also say Aaron Rodgers didn't win no ring without McCarthy. So that maybe he had something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But Dak, so he's the hot topic all the time. If we want to get a bunch of comments and we want to get a bunch of reaction, it's Dak. So do you see the playoff Dak is what everyone's concerned with? Do you think the offense and what McCarthy can do can kind of fix that, or is that just in the nature and it's just one of those things, man? Some players are built that way.
I wonder if I think that this draft is a little bit of indicative of what they think of Dak. I don't know that they actually view Dak as a player that's going to win you, take you there by himself. I think that's why they spent so many assets on the defense. Now, if you think that and that's your plan to go and give it all your chips into defense, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think that Dak is good enough. We've seen the 49ers get to how many NFC championship games is this? 3 and 4 years or something like that?
Yeah.
And they don't really have a great quarterback. No,
certainly
not a quarterback that was better than Dak.
Yeah.
So what got them there? Their defense and their coaching. So now you got McCarthy really taking over the offensive scheme and stuff like that, and they're really, really building up this defense with Dan Quinn. You've added even more pieces, bringing in Stephon Gilmore, getting some guys from the draft, Mozzie, to help fix that run defense up front. Overshown, who could be a safety hybrid or a pass rush linebacker. These things are all, and then also you bring in Junior Fehoko, who's kind of like a Michael Bennett-esque for Seattle back in those days as well. So I think they're building through this defense, and it's indicative a little bit of Dak. But you think back, like everybody wants to think about the 49ers game.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys just don't play good against a certain team. What did you see the week prior? He killed the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now the Bucks were not a good team last year. Let's put that out there.
Yeah, I mean they did what they were supposed to do.
But they had a good defense still.
Yeah.
So it was really their offensive woes for them, and then not being able to run the ball. So Dak did what he was supposed to do in that game. I don't know what happened in the 49ers game. Truthfully, I just think that the 49ers with I can't remember his name, Texans' new head coach. That guy knows how to scheme. He has a great defensive mind.
Yeah, he saw something. That's a loss for them.
That's a huge
loss. That's going to be a loss for the 49ers. There's no doubt about it. I like him. I think it was a great hire, but I wish he would have went somewhere else kind of besides the Texans. I just don't like their organization and some of the things that they've done. But I think he's a great head coach, young head coach, and that's going to have a bright future there. I think the world of him. I think he's good for sure.
Yeah.
Even though he went to Alabama.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he was so good at scheming for different teams and figuring out what is their weakness. And he saw something on film, and I think it was specifically with Kellen Moore that he likes to run a lot of the same routes and the same play concept and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When it's a 3rd and long, he likes to just run straight to the sticks, turn around with
Mm-hmm.
a curl route, and that you can sit on those when you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that was just indicative of a terrible game plan, and then them seeing something schematically that they could easily counter. So
Yeah, yeah. I hate that damn 49er. I just think they were out schemed, and I think that was one of the problems with Kellen Moore, his adjustments. But I could do 10 hours on Kellen Moore and the way I feel about him sometimes. And I wish him the best. But my man Steve, Lamb limped off, but I think he finished. I think he ended up finishing practice a little bit. Then they held him out or something. If I was reading things right, correct me if I'm wrong. Wish we'd signed D Hop. Go all in. So you got D Hop. I mean, I just don't know if too much is too much, and I just don't know if D Hop would be the best fit for what you got at receiver now, unless you were going to say, okay, we're going to maybe part ways with Gallup or something like that, and work something. But I don't know. I think that might be a little too heavy at receiver. I don't
Not
know.
only that, but it's just like for D Hop to come in here and you're already tied to all these other guys ahead of him right now. For him to
Yeah.
come in and you're giving more freedom to Dak, he's going to be chirping in his ear like, "Yo, give me the ball, give me the ball." What does that create? It creates just forced turnovers and just bad plays. So yes, I like D Hop as a player, and if somebody goes down, if CeeDee, God forsaken, goes down or something like that, um, get D Hop in here. But
Yeah.
until then, I'm okay with what we have right now, and I do want to continue to just develop Tolbert, get him in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just think that probably not the time, and I think it may be, but it's past. And I think Cooks, man, there's that dude's still fast as hell, and people are
Oh yeah.
saying old, but you look at his age, he's not as old as you think. But going to the defense, so Ultra may, and this is something they've got to be concerned of, and you kind of saw it a little bit in the San Francisco game. The locker room with the defense played good enough to win. There's no doubt about that. Offense, you can't argue it. That was a big letdown by the offense. I mean, do you see a point where Dak in this offense, but Dak being the leader, if they run into some trouble, could you see that defense kind of turn a little bit in the locker room?
I think that these guys, you guys are forgetting that like these guys see Dak every single day. They see him grinding in there in the weight room. They see him grinding on film. All of these things. That stuff allows you to have forgiveness for somebody when you know that they're putting all of their time into this craft. Now, if Dak was coming in, not working, just came in there, tried to play, and was throwing a bunch of interceptions, you'd be mad at him. You're like, I'm putting in the work. Why aren't you? But knowing Dak and knowing how he is as a leader, he's not doing that. So you have forgiveness for him, but at some point you got to just say, listen, Dak is doing this. He has all these turnovers. If we want to have this team where we want to go, where our trajectory leads, we have to be the person that steps up. We got to get the turnovers. We got to get the sacks. We got to get everything else. So if that's the case, and it makes this defense play harder in spite of Dak because he does have a turnover issue from here on out, it might not be the worst thing as far as motivation wise for a defense that has the talent. They just need that extra chip on their shoulder to push through and really make it a doomsday defense, or really make it like a 2000s Ravens defense.
Yeah, yeah, and I just, I think Dak's a great leader. I think he's well respected in the locker room. I'd be surprised. Plus, I think McCarthy, he's got a good pulse to the locker room. But this defense, I mean, Micah Parsons, I mean, to Ultra's point, I think this is turning into Parsons. He's the face of the team. Yeah. He's getting more and more. You just see it. And I'm looking at this defensive line and jumping on defensive line, and I'm just, hey, man, I'll get some flashbacks. People don't like when I do that, but I'll get me some flashbacks to the 90s, because I just see this defense coming in waves. I mean, they are so deep now, and it hasn't always been that case. There's always here, a little, defensive tackle was a little thin. We get busted up there, but now you got Hankins, you got Mozzie. You don't know, you got Osa. My man Gallimore, he's got to make the team, please. I don't want to ruin my intro, but I mean, you just got so many guys, and then the pass rushers. they're coming in. They're coming in waves. I mean, this
waves.
defense can really
Mm.
take it to the next level going
And
into this season
and
for
the
sure, even with a tough schedule.
with last year's defense, we got so much pressure, so many sacks, but that was in spite of us having a bad second corner. We have
Yeah,
Gilmore on the team now. That if you know anything about Gilmore, he's an all-pro cover corner and he's a ball hawk.
yeah.
So you're talking about helping the front seven get to the quarterback. That extra tip or extra tick of time allows them to get hands on balls, which gives flyers up there for the safeties to come up, make plays, allows our cornerbacks to get their hands on the ball. All those
Hmm.
things pay dividends for turnovers, for loss of turnovers, loss on downs, all of those things. So I'm super, super excited to watch the defense, man. When I was a kid, I used to love watching the offense because I really started watching when Romo came around and
Yeah.
he had those crazy escapes and everything. Now I get so hype to watch the defense because it's like every single time they get on the field, they just want to hit somebody. They want to knock somebody's block off.
Yeah. Yeah. Brown he's not on the team.
No.
Yeah, Brown's gone. I he was coming off that injury, so I don't. No one's going to sign him, and I don't know what
Mhm.
just so I don't know if anyone's what he's going to do. But your point on Gilmore, I always laugh again because it's he's
Mhm.
old, and then the people that are saying that are the Philadelphia Eagle fans, which make me laugh even more because go look at Slay. I mean, his
Slay and
promo.
Bradbury are on the back end of 29 or 30.
Yeah, so it's and Gilmore, and
Mhm.
I don't know. Do you trust? Was it PFF? Do you trust that? Their analytics and all
The
that
little
kind of
ranking
stuff.
system. I think they
Yeah,
had what? Gilmore like
they had
number
Gilmore ahead of Diggs.
yeah, which I don't know. I mean, with Diggs, a lot of people forget this as well. Like I was talking about Jalen Tolbert not playing football till 11th grade. Diggs didn't play corner until a sophomore year in college.
Yeah,
So he's still learning the game as far
yeah.
as how a corner plays the game, and he's just going to continue to get better. What what player is better to learn from than an all pro? He's probably on the generation or the all decade team
Oh yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
for where he was at in Gilmore. I mean, he's such a cerebral player. He has such a great mind. An understanding. He knows how to bait people. You give that mind to Diggs, and with his athleticism, with his ability and his traits, I
Hmm.
mean, you could see it not only just an All Pro because of the ball hawking nature of Diggs, but you could see a legit shutdown guy.
Oh yeah, no, and people, he was, Gilmore was. I think it was 2019. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Not many cornerbacks do that. I know Dion did. Maybe someone else can
Dion, maybe
help me.
Revis back in the
Did
day, but
Revis win it? Did he? I wasn't sure if he won it or
I don't
not,
know.
but
I don't know that he
I
did,
don't
but
know if he won it. I know very few cornerbacks. That just tells you how
yeah.
good, because, like you said, you can name off a lot of great cornerbacks
Mhm.
that didn't get Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, the dude's he's a baller, and
Oh yeah.
I think he's got plenty left in the tank. And I think, what to your point, is he's going to make Diggs better. He's also going to make the secondary better with his leadership,
Mhm.
and it's something I've preached and something I've been complaining about. I need guys on here with championship experience,
I'd
championship
agree.
mentality. You got Cooks who's been there. You got Gilmore who's been there. You're getting
Yes.
guys that have been there and know what it
Mhm.
takes to get to that mountaintop. To the Super Bowl. That we're 27 years. I can't believe it. I still kills me that I got to say
Yeah.
that. But I just think that's the thing that is going to make the difference. And you're seeing this defense really good. They're going to play with some attitude, and we got Eugene Lockhart. Like I say, he's come out. He was a guy who played with some attitude and played with some fire. You're going to see it. But that's what they've got. They got some nasty. I always said, man, we need to get some big nasty. I wanted Sue for so long because I
Oh,
just
yeah.
wanted some nasty. Someone to just put a cleat in someone's face. I know you get a penalty, but sometimes you need that.
Sometimes,
But
yeah,
but I think
exactly.
Mozzie could fit that role. I mean, the strength of him, and it's going to be exciting to see what he brings to the table.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm just so excited to watch this team play because, like I mentioned earlier, it's just complementary football. That front seven working with that back half, both of them just allowing them each other to have more time to do what they're supposed to do. Um, I'm really excited to see what this defense has to offer, and then you take away Kellen out of the offensive scheming and stuff like that, and you add in a legit number two. somebody that knows how to run routes and knows the intricacies of that stuff, and Brandon Cooks. Um, I'm super excited to see how good Dak looks because he has some route runners on the team now.
Yeah.
It's not just Noah Brown and Michael Gallup hobbled out there.
Yeah.
It's a legit, wide receiver core.
Yeah, and people, I saw a comment earlier, and they were talking about Cooks, and they said he's washed up. I mean, you got to look. Last year, he's hard. He was
Mm,
hurt last year, but he also was in Houston, right?
yeah,
And in Houston, who the hell was their quarterback? That's a
Davis
little
Mills.
bit of a
Davis
problem. A little
Mills.
bit of a
Yeah.
problem. So I think Cooks. I mean, everything that you've seen and everything I've seen in his career, I have zero
Hmm.
issues. I think he's going to be a game changer for this team. So I'm excited about that. The other thing I got is just sticking with defense, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. He's been making, and McCarthy's talked a little bit about him on his press conference. We're going to talk about a couple guys, but first, for my son, I got to do this for my boy. He still believes in Kelvin Joseph. So, I mean, are you
Okay.
seeing anything out of him? Is there hope for this man, or do you think he's going to be one of those guys that I know he does well on special teams that could save him,
Yeah.
but is he a guy that can make this team
Yeah.
and
So
and, and contribute?
I'm wondering if, like you just mentioned, with the special teams, I'm wondering if this is the year where we finally let go of CJ Goodwin, who's been a
Mm-hmm.
special teams ace for us. You saw Kelvin Joseph. I mean, if you remember back to the 49ers game, he did get us a fumble recovery or jar it
No, that was
loose
a
or something
huge
like
play.
that.
Huge
So
play.
that was a great
Yeah,
play for us. So, yes, he's made some bonehead plays in the past, but he was a second round pick. The
yeah,
Cowboys, that they value that type of stuff. So if it's between him and CJ Goodwin, I do think that they're going to elect to go with the second round player.
yeah,
Now, how much does he actually make a difference on the defense? Who knows? They were trying him a little bit at safety or allowing
yeah,
him some snaps back there. I don't necessarily know that he's a great safety. Um, I do think that he plays better with the ball in front of him. I don't know
mm-hmm.
that he's great about getting his head around and making plays on the ball when he's playing with the back to the
Yeah,
ball. But with that being said, that doesn't make you a good safety.
yeah,
So I do want to see him to continue to develop. And like I said, with Diggs behind Gilmore and learning stuff, Kelvin Joseph needs to be in that room sucking every single bit of information out of Gilmore's head that he can,
yeah,
because that's a guy that's been there, he's done that, and he knows what to do. So, who knows how much he's actually going to make a difference? I'm not anticipating much from him, but I do
yeah.
expect him to make the team.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you always hope. I always say, man, you wish all these guys well, man. I don't want to see, and I know he's
Yeah.
had some, had some issues, so it's self-inflicted on a lot of it. So, but I always like to hear that story. These guys that that they can just bring it, and again, it could be like you said, a role player that makes a huge play, made a huge play in the playoff game,
Mhm.
something that's game impacting. You get some of these guys, and you go down the list, and people forget Kenny Gant. He was in the '90s Cowboys. I want to say
Mhm.
it was the first Super Bowl. Someone my age can help me if they don't if they remember. But I think he made either some fumble recovery or forced fumble. He got involved in some plays, and he was, like I said, he was the special teams ace. He was the guy that that
Mhm.
everyone loved. But he made some key plays in some big situations for the Cowboys, when it mattered most. So you need those guys. You can't
Yeah.
always, the superstars got to play their game. I mean, superstars got to play at their level, but you also need those fringe guys, those support guys to step
Well,
up when it matters. And I think he's that type of guy that maybe that's where he can etch his career into doing that.
so I have a question for you, Mike.
Mm.
It looks like Ultra said that he was actually a four-star safety recruit out of high school. Do you think that Joseph has a better chance of making the team as a safety with how deep our safety room is, or a corner?
See, I would tell you got who you got. You obviously Diggs, Gilmore, Bland. You're gonna have to help me. After that,
Lewis.
you got Lewis coming off an injury,
Hmm.
and then I mean, are you kind of giving
I'm
up or
wondering what they're thinking about Israel Mukwamu. Is he a corner? Is he a
McQuamu?
safety?
Yeah, I think you got some
And
hybrid
then
guys
you
there.
also added a draft pick in Eric Scott,
Yeah,
who's looking to probably make the team as well.
and I think we didn't even get on the linebackers, but I think you're going to see Curse. But he's going to be one of those guys, like you said, like maybe a hybrid. He did
Yep.
did it some last season, is being a linebacker. So maybe the flexibility with Joseph of being, McCarthy's trying to, like on the offensive line, he wants
Hmm.
guys to play a couple different positions. Maybe Joseph's a guy that could, even though maybe they have one true safety, but
No,
Joseph
that's
is
a
that safety guy who's spying. Maybe it's the tight end, or maybe it's the run of it. Something where you're using him with his skill set. So
That's a
I don't
good
know.
point,
I
though,
mean,
Mike, because you think about Israel Mukwamu, who has kind of a flex position, safety corner. You could also say that about Kelvin Joseph a little bit. Does that allow you to keep a Hunter Lepke on the team? Does that
yeah.
allow you to keep one of those guys that are further down the depth chart, but you want to keep them? You gave them the money as the undrafted free agent. Who knows? That's a good point.
Yeah, and Steven, I mean, I don't think you can never have enough role players, and I don't think this
Hmm.
team sometimes has enough role players. I think you've got a lot of guys that look at the star and big time, big time, big time. I think you need some role guys that are just their
Oh yeah,
egos aren't huge. They're going to do the dirty work and they're going to get it done. So
yeah.
I love you, but I got to disagree. And that's what the show's about. We all can't agree on everything that I say. And I sure the hell can't agree on everything you say, especially if it's ultra. But but no, I love it,
One
team.
of the best grinders on this team doesn't get enough appreciation. That's Dorrance Armstrong. You think about this
Yes,
guy, he comes in, he plays tough against the run, but not only that, he is one of the best special teams players on our team. He constantly gets field goal blocks, punt
field goal.
blocks, all sorts of stuff. And so I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to Dorrance Armstrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I tell you what, and that's another one. Yeah, so we'll go backwards a little bit, but man, Randy Gregory, a lot of
Hmm.
Cowboys Nation, boy, they gave it to the Joneses hard for screwing that contract up, and they all said, "Hey, Dorrance Armstrong," they signed him. The Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that we really like, and
Hmm.
I mean, he played better. He played better than Gregory, in my opinion.
And that's also indicative of the Kelvin Joseph as well, because you think about Gregory in the past, there was every reason for him to be cut from the team
Yeah,
year after year after year until he actually started getting on the field.
yeah,
Kelvin's been on the field. He's been able to practice. He's been showing improvement, maybe not as much as they want to, or as much as they want him to, but that just shows you that they probably will have him on this team just because of where he was drafted.
yeah. No, yeah, no. I think so. I agree. You don't really give up on those guys unless it's really, really, really bad.
Hmm.
When you got that capital in there. I know. Again, I'll mess his name up too, but he's the kid from Mexico, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's
Isaac
always been
Alarcon.
offensive line, and
Alarcon.
then he went to defensive tackle. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think our defensive
That'll
tackle
be
is
a
pretty deep. I don't know if he's going to have a shot to make the team there.
that'll be a preseason watch. So
Yeah,
yeah, you got to tune into the preseason and check him out.
yeah, no, but and I know Ultra is talking about Wright and Gallimore. Yeah, I mean Wright's probably done. Gallimore, I like Gallimore. I'm
Mm.
hoping they, goddamn, I'm hoping he hope he stays on the
You
team.
know, I think that Gallimore is going to make the team. Truthfully, I think that when you look at Bohana, he's the less versatile player between Gallimore and him.
Yeah,
Gallimore gives you, I think, better pass rush ability, and certainly, or sorry, uh, better pass rush ability and a good enough run ability to keep him on the team
yeah,
versus Bohana that can only be on the limited snaps, possibly like 20 snaps a game.
yeah,
So yeah, I think Bohana's done, and you got Hankins back in here. You drafted Mozzie Smith,
yeah.
so I think that
Golston,
him, Osa, and
yeah.
Gallimore are your guys.
No, but I mean, that's what I'm saying with this defensive line. I mean, we're naming guys. I mean, these are guys that played
Hmm.
significant time and have been in rotation. And there's going to be some, it's musical chairs, and there's going to be some guys that are going to be out,
Yep.
and talented guys that are going to be out. But that's just again a credit of Quinn. Will McClay drafting a
Yep.
lot of these guys. I mean, you got to give credit to the front office for that. I mean, we've got this defensive line is going to be. I mean, to me, it's going to be a monster. It's going to be.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be something to see. I mean, we didn't really even talk about Tank and Sam Williams and Parsons. I mean, the
Oh
edge
yeah.
rushers that we're going to have. It's going to be a lot of fun. And what does that do? That's just going to make the secondary even better. I mean, you talk
Yep.
about turnovers. And so I am so pumped for this defense, and
Hmm.
I'm a defensive guy. I mean, I love offense, but I love watching. I mean, as bad as the Cowboys game against San Francisco was, if I was just a fan, it was intense because as the game went on,
Hmm.
everything just mattered more and more. And if
It
you
was
really
still
look at
it
it,
was a great game to watch still.
yeah, it was one play. I mean, one play
Yeah.
changed it, and it was it was Kittle and Diggs for whatever reason. Maybe you worried about a penalty, you're worried about them. Maybe you didn't want to have contact, but
Hmm.
that was a game changing play. So as great as that game, I mean, it just came down to that one play. That was really the only big offensive play that I can remember on on both sides of it. It was just such a good defensive battle.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And that's what it's like. When other teams are winning around you, you see what they do and it's a copycat league.
Yeah,
The Niners, they went off defense, and I think that the Cowboys saw that and they want to try to replicate that. And then the Eagles, what did they do really well? They went in the trenches. We
yeah,
went and addressed that in the draft with Mozzie Smith. Hopefully, that will limit the QB sneaks, like Micah was screaming about. Um, and yeah, you gotta play to what your opponents are really good at, and you also kind of got to take a play out of their book.
yeah, yeah. Hey, thank you, Ultra. I appreciate that too. As everyone gives Dallas a lot of crap, but the 49ers are actually, we're 95, they're 94. So both of us are
That's very
long
true.
overdue. And I think that's crazy to me that the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl. I mean, they've been, right? They got to the
But
Super Bowl,
Ben, man,
but winning
we're
is, I
going
mean, all that matters is winning it, man. Who gives a crap, man? I mean, if we go to the Super Bowl and lose, I'd probably wish we weren't even in it because then I don't have to deal with
like
it.
I heard
But
the crazy stat of 10,000 days for the Dallas Cowboys not being in an NFC Championship game.
yeah, well,
I mean,
I mean,
that's astronomical,
that's
man. We got to get back.
what they do, and you look at it, and they've had chances. I know that a lot of people
Hmm.
give Jerry Jones, and they'll give him a lot of heat, and give him a lot. This team, you were the Romo era, right? So the Romo
Hmm.
era they had some years there where they should have been at least to the championship game. But I'll still
Yeah.
go back and that 2007, if I'm right on the year,
Hmm.
13-3.
Yep.
That team was a Super Bowl team, and that just inexcusable what happened, and that's very sad. And then obviously
Hmm.
the Dez catch, but I always go back to the Dez catch, and man, there was a lot of time left for Aaron Rodgers, so I don't know if that's a guaranteed
Yeah.
victory.
Then you
And I
still got
know
to
he's a
go
little
meet
hurt,
Seattle or
but
whatever after that. But
yeah, yeah, but
it's no gimme, but still it hurts remembering those whenever we kind of cling on to those moments whenever we were almost there.
yeah,
This year feels different because we're actually willing to make some moves to get there. So we'll see if it actually pays dividends later down in the future, kind of like a Rams did,
yeah,
getting the Jalen Ramseys, bringing in those other guys to the Odell Beckhams and stuff like that to go in and try to compete, even if they're leveraging the future a little bit. I'm so um, deprived of seeing any meaningful wins for my Cowboys career in my life. I just want us to go for it.
yeah. No, and I think. It's that tough thing, right? Is you could go like they could have got Von Miller last year. You could Ramsey
Hmm.
could have went did all that. The Cowboys have taken that draft. If you look at this team, it's pretty much it's all drafted guys. I mean, you have a few free agents that they've gotten. What I think they
Hmm.
did this year is they were very strategic, right? They were very strategic, and they had an issue at cornerback. You go get Gilmore and got some value there. There's no question about it. You
Yeah.
go get Cooks. You kind of sure up a few spots, but they still live and die by the draft. And I think that was proven last year with Tolbert. They let Cooper go, and
Hmm.
you had expectations that Tolbert's just going to step in and it just fill the void, and that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you look at the numbers and you look at that offense. Maybe you give.
You
I
know.
still don't think it was a top five offense. I think it was all smoke and mirrors and some
Yeah.
bad teams they racked up some yards on. But
I agree.
for them to do what they did with really CeeDee and nobody else at receiver,
Hmm.
you had Schultz, who's a good tight end. Take nothing away from him. You had Zeke, who was kind of at the definitely the backside of his career, and he was definitely down. And Pollard wasn't used as much,
Hmm.
till what, later in the season or mid-season or something like that. That they had an offense, because I mean, you look at it, it's like, Jesus. That's I think last
Yeah.
year was probably one of the most, the
But
weakest offense that they've had
it's
in a long time.
well, 2 points here is it's like the Cowboys, I think, led the league again in turnovers.
Yeah.
So we gave our offense more opportunities as well to rack up some points. Second point though is I was just so mad at the Cowboys front office because we've already done this before. Whenever we went into a season with no weapons, whenever we
Hmm.
had to go and get Amari Cooper, why would you go back into another season thinking the exact same thing can happen? And you're putting, Noah Brown and you're putting faith into Jalen Tolbert and stuff like that. It's like, have you not learned from the past? Now,
Yeah.
with that being said, I'll give them some praise because they did come into this year and see, like, okay, we need to address this a little bit. We know who Dak is now. He does need weapons. He's
Yeah.
not a Patrick Mahomes, and that's okay. There is only one Patrick Mahomes in the league.
Yeah,
So
and as I said, there's not many quarterbacks in this league now that don't need weapons.
yeah,
Mahomes is probably the only one I can think of.
exactly. So you went and signed Brand or traded for Brandon Cooks, and then you upgrade your defense to obviously help Dak even more as well. Not playing directly beside Dak, but that's going to help
Mhm.
him. So
Yeah,
um, I think that they're learning from their mistakes a little bit, and they're willing to break from their draft and develop philosophy a little bit more, and that's a good thing.
yeah. Was Steve Young a first round draft pick? I thought he was
Mm,
in the USFL and the Bucks drafted him like
I'm not
in the
sure.
mid round, because I know like Herschel Walker, those guys. I don't know if they were. I don't know if they were first round draft picks. So I don't know. I know obviously Aikman was. It was Ultra made a comment about the last two quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl for the 49ers Cowboys are first round draft picks. And I just don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I just didn't think that Steve Young was a first round. No, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But I just didn't know if he was a first round draft pick for the Bucks. So
Yeah, so he was first round
was he?
in the USFL,
Well, the USFL, but
and
what did
then he
Tampa Bay
goes
draft him in?
to let's see. Primary San Francisco, also played for Tampa Bay.
But he
Where's
was
he at?
drafted because they owned his rights, so they would have had to draft him. Because Herschel was drafted like in the fifth round. I mean, they were doing that with some of those guys they were drafting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was
Is a
just,
buyout contract to go to the NFL, it looks like.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I forget. But
So,
anyway, um, but yeah, he was with the USFL and he got screwed out of a lot of money like a lot of those other guys in those
yeah.
years. And I
Yeah.
always wonder. You look at the USFL. Not to change the subject. I mean, they had so much talent. I mean,
They
Reggie
did.
White, Herschel Walker, Steve Young. I mean, there were so many guys. Anthony Carter, wide receiver. There were so many guys that I mean, the USFL put a hurting on the NFL,
Yep.
for that time, but they overpaid so much, and then they never got
Yeah.
the crowds
They
enough
have
to
a
where
few
they.
good documentaries about that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It was a lot of fun. I didn't get that into it because obviously I was really young, but the
mhm.
Cowboys were the team, and it was even funny because the '87 strike year. I remember. I mean, you played with scabs, or they called them scabs. I guess that's being mean, but you played with all these guys that came in, and the NFL was still drawn. Like it was still, a lot of these guys had to ended up crossing over
Mhm.
because they needed the money for one. But that's why the NFL, it's just the way the contracts are. The NFL shield is so powerful. It's more powerful than any other sport.
Yep.
Where usually, like Major League Baseball, the players run it. Basketball, the players run it. The
Yep.
NFL, man, I don't know what they
It's
do, but man,
definitely
it's
ran by the owners. Yep.
yeah. I mean, and it's a funny thing I always say is it's the one sport where the one time where the fans side with ownership. They don't sign, with the guys, that are getting paid. So it's always
Yeah.
funny that, whenever you see
That's
that.
a
But
good point.
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
the NFL has done a really good job with trying to figure out how to make the sport 365, getting events.
Oh,
They made the draft so much better, such more of an event. You can go there, hang out with guys. That's one of
mm-hmm.
the best times as far as being just a football fan because it's not rivalry. I mean, there is a little bit of rivalry, but you can just be happy for the guys that are drafted. Everybody's looking at the same lot of players, so it's kind of
Yeah.
fun. You get to shoot some stuff with some other fans and stuff. It's a good time. And then, like you were saying, I mean, the NFL is just continuing to grow. They have the perfect amount of games where it's not, oh, I have to catch every single one of these games. Well, you do as an NFL fan, you catch every single one versus the NBA that has 82. Baseball has what 160 or something crazy. So, yeah, they have it perfect. They had it dialed in. So,
Yeah. Some of the stuff I don't like playing overseas. I'm
oh,
not a
yep,
huge
yep.
fan of that. Only, and it's nothing against overseas. To all my UK guys and my friends in Germany that follow the show, and I've been on the show and stuff like that. It's just these games are so important. I mean,
Hmm.
NFL. It's not like baseball where you get 160 games or whatever. Football, one loss, you give up that home game and you're going over there and playing. That can mean you getting in the playoffs or not. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing I with the NFL. I just sometimes I think they go too far, but like the schedule, like you said, is a big event. And I'll tell you though how big it is. Like the draft, I went to the draft in Philly, and I
Hmm.
walked out of there alive. Now my son got cussed at, that kind of stuff. Goes without saying. But I walked the streets, had no issues. So even that
Hmm.
was peaceful during draft time. It must have been like peacetime in the war before it gets started. You're able to kind of talk
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, the draft. I always tell people if you haven't been to the draft, I don't know if I would do it every year. But I would recommend that you do it one time because it was a lot of fun. It was a
Hmm.
great weekend. It was a great
But if you do the draft, you got to do it right. You got to do your research on some players. So whenever they inevitably get drafted by your rival, you can be a little bit of heartbroken, but kind of
weekend.
secretly root for them.
Yeah, and I told you, I mean, I wish I had the knowledge that you and Tuck and some of these guys have at college. I'm just so in a bubble of my little world of college football. If it's not Miami,
Yep.
maybe Florida State, some ACC guys. I don't know nothing. When I went there, we drafted Taco Charlton.
Oof.
That was
Oof.
my experience. And I was like, hey man, he's from Michigan. He got to be named like
Oh
Taco. He's
yeah.
got to be pretty good. Not knowing that obviously I didn't do my homework, and T.J. Watt was waiting there that we could have had
Hmm.
right in front of him. So it was it's definitely, but it was fun, man. It was a
Yeah.
good time. We got who was the we got Jordan Lewis. I
Yeah,
think
we got
Jordan Lewis
Jordan
was that
Lewis,
year.
third round. We got Chidobe Awuzie, second
Yeah,
round.
yeah, yeah.
Um, fourth round. Who'd that be?
I was there, and the funny thing, like the reason I know the
I
Lewis
think maybe
one.
Gallimore, honestly.
No, he was later. I think he
He was
was late.
later.
He was like
Okay.
20. Yeah, he was few years later. But
Okay.
it was. I think he almost. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to doubt
No,
you.
I
You're
think you
probably.
know what? I think it was actually. I think if I remember right,
It was a bad.
Brad.
It wasn't a great draft. I do
It
know
was
that.
like Bradley and I or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. Who ended up being kind of a bust. It wasn't a
Yep.
good draft. That was one of the. But Drew Pearson. Yes, that was a Drew Pearson draft. I was right there.
Schultz was fourth. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who? Oh, yeah. Jordan Lewis
So actually,
Schultz.
that
Yeah.
was decent, minus the miss of Taco. And Taco was kind of an outlier as far as Michigan pass rushers, because at that time you talk about like Frank Clark and some of those other guys that came out of Michigan,
Yeah.
they had a good track record. So,
Yeah.
um,
Just
but
didn't pan out. And I was a Marinelli. He liked him, and I mean, from
hmm
what they say, if all's true, he pounded the table for him and this and that, and and I think God, he just got cut from another team. He's been bouncing around. But I ended up a tip for anyone who goes to the draft. I hung around, but I had my kids, so that kind of helps. But I hung around the fence where all the VIP, where you go into where you can
hmm
sit,
yep.
and the timing was right, man. This guy saw me. He's like, "Hey, man, is that your son?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Here." He gave me his two tickets because he was there for a team they already picked, so he didn't give a
hmm
shit. And we ended up getting inside, and we got on TV on ESPN after. I want to say it was the Jordan Lewis pick, but maybe it wasn't. I thought
That's
it
what's
was. I
up.
can't remember. And then we got on TV for the first round on NFL Network. My son got on TV, so it was a lot of fun, man. It was a blast. It was a blast. So I could
Okay, so
talk
correction right here. I guess it was Ryan Switzer out of
Switzer.
UNC. If
Boy,
you
that was
remember
a
him.
bad draft. So Lewis had to have been
Yeah.
third
Yeah,
because I
Lewis
remember it
was
was
definitely. I
Lewis.
remember we went double dip on the corners, so it's
Yeah,
definitely Cheeto, and then it was Lewis. I remember
yeah,
that,
yeah,
which I was super excited about both of those guys at that time,
yeah.
and
Well, I
both of
mean,
them turned out to be pretty good players
no,
too.
Cheeto's had a nice career. It didn't really work out in Dallas so much,
Hmm.
but I mean, he was okay. just always seemed like he was hurt.
Just a
But
solid. He was a guy, like you were saying
yeah,
earlier.
yeah, he's just one of those guys. So what else am I missing? Tight ends. We'll finish it up with tight ends. So
Hmm.
Schoonmaker was in a boot, but they said not a big deal.
Hmm.
You feeling you happy with the tight ends? I know we're jumping back to offense, but I want to
Yep.
make sure we touch everything with you, man. With mini camp.
Yeah. So tight end is the right next to running back. It's probably the biggest unknown because you talk about um, the totality of our tight end group has less than 1,000 yards amongst every single one of them combined
Yeah,
at the NFL level. Um, so only time will tell for how good these guys can be. Now, Jake Ferguson, he had a pretty solid rookie season behind Dalton Schultz. Peyton Hendershot was good in spells. Um, then you bring in Schoonmaker, who comes from a Michigan offense that is really run heavy.
yeah.
Don't do as much stuff as in the pass game, but he has good hands and he can make some plays. I'm really thinking that they're going to be using these guys a lot more in line and up the seams more
Yeah.
um, in this offense instead of setting them out wide and stuff like that, which will be interesting to see. I just don't know that we're going to have as heavy as a red zone attack from my tight ends as years past. So
Hmm.
something to watch.
Yeah, Schoonmaker, he just looks like Schultz to me, like just body type, just the way I think is he 86 too? Is he?
Yeah, I think that he went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so Dalton, both Daltons with the 86.
yeah,
So
it's gonna be the thing is just don't fumble like the other 86, right? So I don't want I don't know about you. I always so nervous every time Schultz caught the ball. I just begged him to fall to the ground or run out of
or the
bounds.
I call him Dalton, but the Scoot. So it's the SCH, I guess, with the 86s. But anyways,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that Schoonmaker, he does some good things. Like I said, comes from that Michigan offense, but Ultra saying in the chat, he thinks he's going to be a stud. I really do hope so.
he's high on him. Now he's
Yeah.
high. Now I'll say Ultra when the draft, everything I've seen with him, he is definitely
Hmm.
he's all in on
It was a
Schoonmaker.
guy.
So
So Schoonmaker was a guy that I think that Brian Broaddus was pretty high on early in the draft process, um, and Brian's hit on a couple of these tight ends coming into the league recently. So he's I mean, no, he's a former scout. So if you're gonna trust anybody, trust Brian as far as that goes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we'll see.
and yeah, and I don't Ferguson and Henderson. I mean, that is a good point. If they were very sought after within the in the with the coaches, I don't know if they would have put the capital in a tight end at that
Hmm.
point. So
I'm.
there's something to be said for that. That's why I said we're not in the locker room. What the hell do I know? I'm not on the practice fields every day.
Hmm.
Some said that Hendershot is more
More
looked at
favored.
as the
Hmm.
favorite more than Ferguson, and everyone jumps to Ferguson first. So it's going to
Yeah.
be it's going to be a lot of fun. But Dallas always uses a tight end. I mean, you can go back to the
Hmm.
the days of time with Jay Novacek and Billy Joe Dupree and all these guys. There's David LaFleur, Eric Bjornson. We can go way back. We can go a little in between time to some rough years if you
Oh
want.
man, yeah.
So,
Don't bring me back to those.
no,
Um,
obviously Witten. I
I'm.
mean,
I
you
am kind
had
of. Sorry, Mike.
legends.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't want to leave Witten out. I want to at least end
Oh
on a
yeah.
high note.
Yeah, you got to add in Gold Jacket Wit.
Yeah,
One of my, I guess, predictions though is that I don't think that Sean McEwen's going to make the team. I think that they're going to elect to go with Hunter Lipke, the fullback slash tight end hybrid,
yeah,
which will be interesting because I think that adds another phase to the game. Sean McKeon's a little bit of a redundancy as far as and that's why they kind of had him as for blocking because he's another Michigan boy. So you add in Schoonmaker and you let him go. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him.
yeah. I smile because there was a funny story about Alfredo Roberts with Warren Sapp. I think Alfredo Roberts. They played at Miami together, so I forgot the
Oh
story,
yeah,
but you could look it up. There was something funny that happened to them at a club or something, or maybe it was Alfredo Roberts and Michael Irvin. Something happened where they got in a fight at a Miami club, and then Michael Irvin decided if it was Michael Irvin, if that was the one Alfredo Roberts decided to fight the whole club, said he was going to fight everyone,
yeah.
and then they had to grab him out, and it was one of the players said, "Hey, Mike, man, you got to understand." These are real gangsters you're talking that you want to fight. This ain't this ain't the movies. These dudes are gonna kill you. And it was one of those stories Michael Irvin said back in the day that it was his wake
That's
up
awesome.
call to definitely, you gotta watch yourself. But anyway,
Yeah.
man, it's been a lot of fun, man. This hour goes by so fast. Is there anything that you wanted to cover that we missed? I don't want to leave no stone unturned
Um,
with training camp and everything else, getting
Kicker.
started.
Well, what do you think we got our kicker on the
Oh God,
roster?
see, you got to leave on a sad note. I don't know. What do we do at kicker?
Well, I think we got Mason Crosby out there. Robbie Gold. Wondering if one of those two guys are an option. Who knows? Maybe they pull in a guy from the XFL.
Isn't Robbie Gould? Is he still? Is he out there? He's like automatic, isn't he? Or is he?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
he's pretty good. I think he is out there still. Chat, go ahead and help us out with that.
yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that it scares the hell out of me because
Yep.
I was Martin Gramatica lives in this area, and I was like, man, I think I'd ask people. I wonder if it would be worth bringing, seeing if I can get him on. One to
Mhm.
talk about the Romo play because
Oof.
he was the kicker
Yeah.
there. But really, what is it with the kickers? When I saw Maher, at that Tampa game, it was so sad to just kind of watch it just go south
Mm,
and a lot of these kickers they just don't recover from that and you see some of these guys that just
mhm.
they end up out of the league and they get cold and then all of a sudden who was the kicker that we had
Dan
in
Bailey.
Dallas Nick Folk,
Oh,
right?
Nick Folk. Yep.
He had those big kicks. He was the one in the Buffalo game that
Buffalo game. Yep.
had to kick the 50 20. Then he kind of like
Mhm.
lost it and then he's now I think he's still kicking,
Now he
so
went where he went to like the Jets for a little
yeah,
bit.
he was on the Jets
Patriots.
for a little bit. So,
Uh,
Mike Vanderjagt. Did we bring Mike Vanderjagt? He was another one. He was automatic, and then he just totally lost it.
yeah,
He ended up on our team for a little bit. Dan Bailey, that was a god. That
yeah.
was a
Dan, yeah, Dan Bailey. He was so good for like 5 straight years, and then
oh
he just got like a little injury, and then he was not very good for a
no.
little bit. Then he goes to the Vikings. He's good again, and then I don't even know where he's at now.
Yeah, but yeah, he's out of the league. But yeah, Gold or Crosby. But see, the only thing is, man, like unless I'm wrong, Crosby his field goal percentage. I mean, he's a veteran, so you definitely got it. Mike
Mhm.
McCarthy knows him, but I think his field percentage wasn't that great last year. But that's a concern because people forget about the kicker. But how many games come
Yeah.
down to 3 points or
I mean,
less in the NFL?
you talk about the Giants that won and the Vikings for that matter that won more games by a one score margin, 1 point margin or whatever, um, than any other teams in the league,
Yeah,
and they both have solid kickers. So um, that's a big reason why you have to pay attention to kickers. I mean, so many people overlook it because of the new rules with kickoffs and stuff like that. Um, Trust me, you need a guy that can get it through the uprights.
yeah, no, absolutely. Jimmy Johnson has college recruiting station, Liberty City Strip Club. Jimmy Johnson gets credit, but it really, I mean, if you watch the 30 for 30 with the U, was Howard Schnellenberger. He was the one coach that would go into the inner city and he would go recruit these kids and he would come there with his
Hmm.
he had the big stogie and the trick he always would do is leave it behind and that way had to go back to see the kid one more time. But he really built that foundation of Miami to get it where it was. And Jimmy Johnson took it to another level. Dennis Erickson kept it going, and then obviously they got in a little bit of trouble, had some hard times, and then Butch Davis doesn't get enough credit for bringing Miami back. And then Coker wins the national championship with Butch Davis, all his guys. But Butch Davis, to me, and I've been trying to get him on the show because I'd love to just talk to him about Miami. And the one question I
Hmm.
just got to ask him is, why the hell did you leave Miami to go to Cleveland? Now, I understand the money and it
Yeah.
was such a big difference. Not like college football is today, but Butch Davis would be the what's his God? I'm having a brain with Nick Saban. He would be the Nick Saban. I mean,
Equivalent,
he would
but
have
yeah,
had Miami would have had so many national championships with if Butch Davis would have stayed. Man, it's just God. I got to bring back bad memories because Miami's been a long time. It's been 2000, 2001. And then we got screwed in the Ohio State one with a flag that came out like, 10 years later after the game was over. We're celebrating. All of a sudden, the guy decides to throw a flag. So,
Yeah.
but who do you follow in college?
So for me, I live in Kansas. So I actually for college football, I follow the Jayhawks.
Okay.
Uh, now we're not very good, but
Yeah.
I also follow a little bit of Oregon football as well. My uncle is a trucker, so he'd go up there and brought me back something one time from there. So I kind of like them a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm not super big on college other than just scouting the players.
Yeah, no, I mean, Oregon's they're a great school, and
Hmm.
obviously we got Cristobal came back home to the U from Oregon, and Oregon seemed like they hadn't missed a beat. They got is it Nix Bo Nix is he still there, the quarterback? Where's he
Yep,
gone?
Bo
Yeah,
Bo
so
came back to Oregon, so yep,
yeah. No, so they're they'll be good. So yeah, I
yep,
love talking college football as you can tell too. So I get the Cowboys going, but you give me college football, we'll get sidetracked. So anyway, we appreciate it. I appreciate it. Hopefully
yep,
Kelly appreciates it. You fill it in. You fill it
of
in the
course.
cave. And obviously we love having you. Love what you bring. The knowledge, obviously passion for the Cowboys. That's all we ever ask for. Is we just,
Yep.
we're all fans and we just love talking Cowboys football. So tell everyone again one more time where they can find it because they need to.
Yeah, so Boys in the Zone on Twitter. That's the letter N, not IN. And then my YouTube is EJ Savage 4714. Go check that up. And I'm gonna be dropping a video each week and maybe start doing some lives as well. So
Good, good,
subscribe me and maybe we'll get Mike on the show. Maybe we'll get Kelly on the show sometime. Who knows?
absolutely. We're there. You just don't compete with us. I don't want to see you showing up at
Yeah, yeah.
Thursday
Can't
night.
compete.
This time taking all our listeners. No, I'm just kidding.
No, sir. No, sir.
There's
We got it.
plenty of Cowboy fans that go around, but we're gonna be, for everyone else, we're gonna be continuing to do stuff. And EJ, all of us, we're all family. So anytime you ever want to drop in, I
Oh
want
yeah.
to do some post game stuff from the cave after the game
Oh
and from
yeah.
home. So it'll be one of those things, man. If you're watching the game, win or lose, I told Kelly, man, we just open this thing up and get people to just jump on and have a good time, take calls. It just either hopefully it's all we're rejoicing the
Yeah.
victory and we're all having a great time, but I have a feeling if it's a loss, there'll probably be a lot more attention, a
A
lot
little
more
bit.
fire.
Yeah. Mike, the guys and I at CanFan were talking about maybe getting together with a couple guys, other Cowboys content creators, once a month. So the 4 game increments, and then
Yeah.
breaking down those games and where we're looking further in the season and stuff like that. So Kelly, you guys want interested in that?
No,
We're gonna
absolutely.
probably start doing
I
that.
mean, I started doing this for fun. My kids got, people saw my daughter. She
Hmm.
was doing the hype videos with me, and when they get 16, my dad's not cool no more. My son just graduated high
Hmm.
school, so I just started doing this. I just love talking Cowboys and being where
Exactly.
I'm
Yep.
at and everything talk about it. So this is fun to me, and hopefully people love it. Hopefully they're entertained by it. Just like I said, I just love having fun with it. I'm no expert by any stretch. I'm not going to sit here and break down film and give you all the stuff, but I'm going to give you the love that I have and the passion being a Cowboys fan and just tell you how I feel from watching the game and just living and breathing and loving my Cowboys. So I love doing stuff like that. So
Yeah.
anytime I'm down, man. Anytime.
That
Anytime.
sounds awesome. Hey, chat. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. We'll be back live. We got Jimmy. Well, hopefully, you'll be hearing me talk about the 2-2 going back to Denver. Hopefully, Miami can handle this business. Otherwise, it's gonna be a wrap real fast. And Mark, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that hat. If we don't win one game while I'm wearing that hat, I might have to redo it. But anyway, you guys have a great weekend. We will see you Monday. We'll leave you with this. I got to update my stuff. I got to get to work, but we'll leave you with this, and you guys take care.
Eagles getting ready, because you might not like it, but you will learn to love it, because we are the best thing going today.